This story is not real, but such dangers exist in our world. If you find yourself in such a situation, do not stay silent. Contact someone you trust or a relevant organization. It was evening. The last golden rays of the sun were entering Jason's room through the window. He was sitting at his computer, fully engrossed in an online game. Headphones were in his ears, and his fingers moved at lightning speed on the keyboard. Occasionally, he would utter something under his breath and make various facial expressions, much to the amusement of his mother, who was doing the dishes in the kitchen. Jason was talking to a boy he knew as X-Hunter, and they were discussing some gaming strategy. "You need to log out and go to sleep soon," said Jason's mom. "Okay, Mom, just one more match, then I'll shower and go to bed," replied Jason without taking his eyes off the monitor. After winning the match, Jason turned to his mom and said, "I'm going for a short walk. Be back soon." "Oh, okay, honey," replied his mom, waving him off. However, she had a feeling that Jason wasn't going to just take a walk around the block. At 8 p.m., Jason still hadn't returned home, but his mother didn't panic. She figured he was probably hanging out with friends. Yet when he didn't show up even at 9 o'clock, she started getting worried. Jason never stayed out this late without telling her. She tried calling him, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Still, she managed to calm herself down. Maybe he's just spending the night at a friend's place. "I'm sure he'll be back soon," she told herself. But that was just wishful thinking, because Jason never came back that night. In the morning, his phone was still off, and his mother noticed that the last seen online status on his Discord account was still showing. She quickly figured out that he spent the entire night playing games with his friends online. But where exactly? At 6 a.m.? Unable to bear it any longer? She called the police. The news of the missing child spread quickly through the city, and by noon, the police had already received over 30 tips, but none of them led to any result, and so the search had to be expanded. Only Detective Nikki could handle this case. While other officers chased down every lead, Nikki preferred working behind the scenes, carefully selecting the right moments to strike. She was smart, observant, and tech-savvy, which made her the perfect person for this job. She took a look at Jason's social media accounts and chatted with his friends. In the end, Nikki ended up in Jason's room, which was full of gaming accessories. On the computer, she found Jason's conversation with X. They exchanged various funny emojis, and then X-Hunter started giving hints about a certain location. Finally, he directly asked Jason to meet him at the old arcade building. The message read, "Meet me at the old arcade building. Come alone. I want to give you a surprise." Nikki's eyes narrowed. This was not a normal chat between friends. This was clearly grooming. She checked the Discord app on Jason's computer, but there was nothing suspicious there. It was clear that Jason was chatting with someone he trusted. Otherwise, why would he have gone out alone at night to meet a random guy from the internet? Moreover, Jason had been talking to this person for several weeks, and the messages were very intimate. Nikki decided to trace the IP address, but the bad news was that a VPN was being used. However, the recording of the Discord bot provided a clue. Nikki played the recording and heard X-Hunter say, "Bring that hoodie I like from your Instagram pic." Immediately, Nikki opened Jason's Instagram photos. Sure enough, in one of the pictures, he was wearing a hoodie. And what's that? A comment on this photo read, "X-Hunter likes this." And that's when Nikki realized who X-Hunter was. She opened Jason's classmates list, and there he was, Ethan, Jason's old jealous classmate who had transferred to another school last year. So X-Hunter was no stranger to Jason. He was Ethan, Jason's former classmate, and he wanted to meet Jason again. But why? What did he want? Nikki looked at the date of the last message. It was yesterday evening. It meant that Jason might still be with him. Nikki immediately called the emergency team. "This is urgent. Possible missing minor inside." She sat into the phone. When she arrived at the old arcade, the ambulance was already there. The arcade was located on the outskirts of town and had been abandoned many years ago. According to the locals, it was dangerous here, because the building was dilapidated and there were rumors of homeless people living inside. When Nikki entered the arcade, she saw two men coming out from behind a stack of old game consoles. The younger man was Jason. Nikki immediately approached him, and seeing that Jason was okay, she let out a sigh of relief. The second man was the owner of the arcade. He explained that he had come to fix the electricity. As soon as the lights turned on, Nikki noticed Jason's backpack near the game console. The boy's head was bent, and he seemed to be listening intently to something. His eyes were wide with fear. When he heard Nikki call his name, he turned around. He looked pale and scared. When Nikki asked him what had happened, he stammered, I don't know. I was playing games with my friend, ex-Hunter, and then I got a message from him saying that he wanted to show me something cool. I didn't pay attention. And when I went to the bathroom, he suddenly left. When I came back, I found this. I don't understand. Nikki noticed that Jason was still wearing his headphones, and she took them off him. Underneath, she found a note with the written message, "Let's play hide and seek. You can't find me, and if you do, I'll delete your Discord account." With trembling hands, Jason showed Nikki his phone. It was indeed turned off. Nikki immediately understood that they needed to search the arcade. "Stay here, Jason," she said, "and when you hear my whistle, run to me." Nikki split up the area into several zones and started checking them one by one. Jason sat on a nearby bench, hugging his knees and rocking back and forth. All of a sudden, Nikki heard a loud crash. She quickly ran towards the sound and saw Jason running away. "Come back here!" she shouted after him. Jason started crying. "Why are you shouting?" "You scared me," he said, wiping his tears. Nikki calmed him down and asked him to start looking for X. Jason shook his head. "I don't want to. He deleted my Discord. I don't have him anymore." Nikki understood that it wouldn't work. Jason had to see that it was all a joke, and that there was no danger. She decided to use XPXHUNTER's own tactics against him. Nikki created a new Discord profile and logged in from Jason's computer. She sent a message to ex-Hunter asking him to play. Soon, she received a reply. Nikki continued the conversation and lured ex-Hunter to the arcade. Meanwhile, the rest of the police officers set up cameras around the building. When Nikki was sure that she had successfully lured the man out, she gave Jason a whistle. The boy ran to her and they waited. A few minutes later, a young man wearing a hoodie came out of the arcade and froze. Several policemen immediately pounced on him. Nikki went up to Jason and asked, "Do you know this person?" "Yes, that's ex-Hunter," replied Jason. After the police officers escorted the suspect away, Nikki asked Jason, "Why did you go to the arcade with him?" "He said he wanted to give me a surprise, but I thought he was just trying to scare me. I wanted to prove to him that I wasn't afraid, but I was really scared." Jason burst into tears. "I thought he was going to hurt me," he whispered. Nikki knelt down next to him and said, "You're safe now. Everything's fine." At the hospital, Jason's mother sat by his bed crying. Nikki stood outside quietly. Jason slowly opened his eyes. He was safe. He wasn't injured, but he was heartbroken. There was no physical violence, but the damage had still been done. Nikki knocked on the door and entered the room. "Are you feeling better, Jason?" "Yeah, I guess so," replied the boy. "Listen, I know you're probably scared, but I want you to know that you did the right thing when you called me. Even though you were scared, you still found the strength to reach out for help. That's what matters. And remember, no one should ever force you to do anything you don't want to do. Do you understand?" Jason nodded. "Good. Now, promise me you won't keep secrets from me." "Okay, okay," whispered Jason. Nikki smiled. "That's my boy. Get well soon." Ethan was summoned to school for questioning. When the principal and Nikki entered his class, he was sitting at his desk with his head down. After everyone left the classroom, Ethan was taken to the principal's office. He confessed that he had been communicating with Jason on Discord, but he claimed that everything was just a joke. "I thought he wouldn't really come," he said. Nikki glared at him. "Online jokes are not jokes when someone's life is at risk." She paused. "Do you understand that if Jason hadn't told me, I would have considered you a suspect in a kidnapping case. You could have been charged with it. Ethan nodded silently. Nikki called his parents, and they took him away for counseling. After Jason recovered, Nikki often visited him. Every time she saw the boy, she gave him a piece of candy. It was their little ritual. Jason was back in school now. He was still a bit timid, but he was surrounded by friends and teachers who cared about him. He also started to enjoy his favorite hobby again. Once upon a time, people used to communicate through letters. Then came the era of phones, and now people spend most of their time online. With each passing year, the boundaries between the virtual and real worlds become increasingly blurred. A lot of things that happen online are perceived as unreal and unimportant. However, unfortunately, this is no longer the case today. Sometimes people you consider friends in real life turn out to be strangers in the digital world. And sometimes those strangers turn out to be your worst enemies. If you liked our story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more stories.